Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are setting up my September spreads and I will be using these deliciously beautiful acrylic markers from Arrtx. They did provide me with these markers, but this isn't like a sponsored video or anything. I've been playing around with the markers for the past couple of weeks and I think I am slowly falling in love with acrylic markers. The pattern we will be doing for September I feel like is kind of popular right now, or maybe it's just the part of Pinterest I'm hanging out in, but I've been seeing a lot of this pattern on Pinterest and a little bit on Instagram too. It's basically just a square grid with doodles on top, and you can use like any media you like to recreate this pattern. I've seen people use colored pencils for this and it looks so cute, so don't worry if you don't have acrylic markers. You can use regular markers, color pencils, or even like real acrylic paint if you want to. Here I'm just painting on a square grid, and by the way, don't let my setup fool you. These markers are extremely bold and vibrant, but for this setup I purposely chose muted colors because that was the vibe I wanted. I actually had a really hard time picking out the colors because they were all so bright and bold. It was difficult to find the more toned down colors. For some of the squares, I actually combined two of them together to make a rectangle, which just makes it more interesting and gives you the opportunity to create different drawings in the rectangles. It also breaks up the pattern a little because I think if I just made them all squares, it will look quite repetitive and boring. After the background was done, I did all the doodles on top, and the reason I decided to use acrylic markers for this pattern is because acrylic is pretty opaque and I can paint directly on top of the background, which made this setup process super simple. If you're using other mediums, then you would need to color the background around the doodles. For the doodles, I made lots of flowers and plant motifs, and don't be scared to repeat the patterns in each square. I did the same flowers and sparkles multiple times, but just changing the color makes them stand out from each other. The key to this pattern is definitely to choose your color scheme and stick to the colors, and it will all look cohesive. You don't have to use the same colors as I did. You can pick any colors you like. And this is what I meant when I said that the rectangles gives you an opportunity to create different doodles. Here I'm able to draw a longer stem for the flower, and it just gives your eyes something to focus on instead of just squares everywhere. I actually didn't quite know how to incorporate the September title into this page. I contemplated writing out the full September title, but in the end I just settled with writing just the first three letters in this bold, bubbly font, which I think makes the title stand out enough, but also it doesn't look out of place because I stuck with the colors of the color scheme, and so it looks like it goes together with the rest of the doodles. I had so much fun painting this month. I didn't plan out the doodles or the placement of each doodle beforehand. I had a rough idea of what I wanted each square to be, but mostly I was making it up on the spot, which is very unlike me. I normally like to have everything planned out, but I've been experimenting a lot with my art lately and it feels very refreshing. And these markers do dry pretty fast, so like by the time I'm done with the next doodle, the one I did prior would have already dried. So for ones where I need to put on multiple layers of paint, I can put on the first layer and then move on to another doodle while I wait for the first layer to dry and then come back to add the second layer. So during the painting process, you see me jump around between the doodles a lot instead of like fully finishing one doodle before moving on to another, if that makes sense. Acrylic is actually one of my least favorite mediums. It's been a while since I painted with acrylic, but these markers make it so easy and the brush tip makes it feel like I'm drawing with a Tombow or something. I know I keep going on about these markers, but I genuinely really like them, and it works on many different surfaces because it's acrylic. And so I recently painted my water bottle and some glass jars with them, which you would have seen if you followed me on Instagram, and it is so fun to paint on different objects, so I will have these markers linked in the description. Again, it's not an affiliate link, but it's there so that you can find them super easily. I also want to apologize beforehand because I know that this voiceover is sounding very out of place. I don't know how to describe it, but it's one of those days where my mind is not working that well in English, and I've tried to do this voiceover many times, but yeah, my mind with English is just not working today, so I'm so sorry. That is my cover spread done, and this might have been one of my most favorite cover spreads I've ever done. I've loved the colors and how it just fills up the page, but now we are moving on to the calendar spread, and I'm starting off with drawing the calendar grid. It was quite difficult to keep the lines at the same thickness as I was drawing them because with any brush tip, the thickness of the line changes depending on the pressure you are applying, and I tried very hard to keep the same pressure with each line, but as you can see, some parts are very much not at the same thickness, but I did try my best and it's okay. And then along the top and right side of the calendar grid, I will be repeating the same pattern we did on the cover spread. So here I'm just first drawing the different color squares. And I just want to say that if you would like to have a digital version of these spreads, I have them available on my Patreon. And for the digital versions, I rearranged some of the squares and changed some of the color choices so that everything just fits more nicely together, because here I'm coming up with the doodles on the spot and sometimes I don't make the best choices with the color and the placement. So making the digital spreads, I was able to take more time in laying everything out. You are essentially getting like a better version of my monthly setup, and I also included weekly spreads using like my go-to weekly layout, so you get a whole month of a digital planner. And I also made all the doodles plus a few extra into stickers that you can print out or use digitally to decorate your bullet journals or planners or anything you like. So yeah, if it sounds like something you would be interested in, check out my Patreon. It will be linked in the description, and it's only for $1, and I would really love to see you there. On the top row, I am drawing the first letter of each day of the week in the corresponding squares. This style of bubbly font seems to have worked well on the cover spread, so I did a similar thing again here, but I wanted a little more variety, so for some of the letters, I did a border around the letter as well. And then I moved on to the doodles on the page, and I don't think the placement of the doodles I did for this page is the best, so I did change it up a bit in the digital version for you guys. I also want to apologize if the lighting looks a bit off in this video. It's been storming pretty much every single day. We're in like the midst of our monsoon season in Thailand, and I find like the end of August going into September, it tends to hit the hardest with rain, so I did try to increase the brightness of the clip so that it doesn't look as gloomy as it did in real life. These doodles did take a very long time to complete, but it was also quite therapeutic in a way because they aren't anything too complex, so I could really just turn my brain off and drew like mindlessly. In the top left corner of each box, I am making a little circle, randomly alternating between the different colors, which I think makes it look like candy, which is so cute. The long section at the bottom here is for my notes. I always like to have a section for notes on my calendar page to write all of those random things I don't know where to put, so I just wrote notes vertically down the side there, and then I wrote in the dates in the circles with a white gel pen, which showed up super well on top of acrylic, but this white gel pen works really well on top of anything, so I will also put the name of the pen in the description. That is the calendar page done, and let's now move on to my habit tracker. Again, we are starting with coloring in the squares, and I really like how I laid out my habit tracker this month. I like all my layouts this month, and I just love looking at it. If you can't tell by now, I am quite obsessed with this theme. Plants and flowers are like always one of my favorite things to draw, but using very simple shapes for the flowers this month gives off a totally different feeling, which I really like. For the habits title, I did the bubbly font again in this long section, and I wrote in the letter B first so that everything is centered, and I made the letters quite slim so that I could fit the whole thing in the rectangle. And then I continued with the doodles. Here I'm drawing a tomato and then a fish again in the longer section. The style I did for the doodles is very like color blocky, which I think goes well with the look of these acrylic markers. And it is very nature focused, but I think you can try doodles inspired by other things as well, such as fruits or maybe even fall foliage since we are going into September. Sometimes I do wish that I live somewhere with actual seasons. I live in a tropical climate, so it's pretty much hot, hot, and hot all year round. So I guess that is one reason why I love traveling so much, because I can spend time in another country and experience the different seasons, which it's so fascinating to me. But even though I don't have actual seasons where I live, I do find that my bullet journal themes in like September, October, November do tend to lean more on the cozy side, because that's what social media is showing me, and I guess it's also like a tiny way I get to appreciate the different seasons through my bullet journal. After I was done with the decoration at the bottom, I moved on to the mini calendars for actual like habit tracking. I'm making green bars, which will be the place for me to write down the title of each habit. I am doing 4 habit trackers this month because one of the things I normally would track in my habit tracker is reading, but at the beginning of this month, I set up a dedicated reading journal, so I will be doing all of my reading tracking in that notebook. And if you do want to see that setup, you can watch it after you're done watching this video. It should be the previous video on my channel, and please go and watch it because I really like that setup and I hope you will like it too. And that is my September spreads done, so let's now flip through all the spreads we made today. I love this theme so much. It kind of reminds me of my November theme from last year, but just a colorful version of it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If you're not done hanging out with me yet, my vlogging channel is linked down below, and have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye!